and welcome to a new episode of the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition's Small Business Forum. I'm your host, Dave Dadekian, a small business owner here in Rhode Island. I own Eat Drink Rhode Island. And let's get right into it today. We've got Governor Dan McKee, our own Rhode Island governor, with us to talk about everything that's been going on in small business. Here he is. Governor, welcome.
Well, Dave, thank you for continuing this effort that we started together during COVID. And we certainly got the then Governor Ramondo's attention. There was no doubt about that as we handed a 5,000 petition saying help these small businesses. And it took me to get in. Actually, they allocated the money, but they hadn't distributed it until I showed up. And then we were able to distribute, $5,000 or $6,000, $5,000 grants to businesses that I'm sure was helpful, having been a small business owner myself. So thanks for keeping this tradition alive with your whole crew.
Well, thank you very much for having us. Thanks for pointing that out. I mean, 6 years now. It seems like yesterday in many ways, and still it's going by in a flash. Here we are, 2026. Obviously, you've been governor now for 6 years almost, and the most important thing or longer actually, the most important thing here to discuss this summer is the re-election, because I know that's heavy on everyone's mind, but I'm sure especially on yours. So let's talk about your track record with small business, and then obviously where you see small business going for the next few years. Hopefully, if you're re-elected. But let's start, like I said, with track record. What do you see the small business landscape in Rhode Island at right now?
Well, I think that one of the things was that we didn't have a voice until this group put a voice together, and including circling the State House with vehicles and letting everybody know in this building that small businesses are really important. As soon as I got into office, I restructured the Commerce Board. There were members of that Commerce Board that were saying, what's $5,000 to a small business? They had no clue.
Right.
But I reconstructed the Commerce Board so that not only can we talk about big business opportunities, but also the small businesses. And we continue to make sure we facilitate strategies and backup, support for our small businesses. So that's something that is paying off, David. I mean, we've added about almost 38,000 private sector jobs since I've been governor. And it's a direct result of making sure that we're working with our big businesses, small businesses, and then we are really making sure that we're making a move to keep people building. Look at all the construction you see in the state. That's never happened before. By the way, the number of jobs that we've added is twice the rate pre-pandemic in the state. So it's really pretty telling. I'm holding a less than a 5% unemployment rate for the 5.5 years I've been in office. That's unheard of as well. So we are making progress, but it doesn't happen without our small businesses, and it doesn't happen without the hard work that the small businesses put in. Look, I know what it takes, and sometimes it's tough to have the key in your hand at the beginning of the day and the key in the hand at the end of the day and be able to be open again. We all know the story, and I've lived that story through the banking crisis, through the 9/11, through the real estate crisis that we had. I know with the persistence that our small businesses have, they find a way to make sure they're standing at the end of the day.
Yeah, and like you said, you ran a small business for many years. Your family has a business, and you famously, visited a ton of small businesses during your time as lieutenant governor in every city and town, which was wonderful. I remember bumping into you occasionally as you would do that. But let's talk about the last few years, small business growth here. There's still challenges, and I think as any small business owner, we're always looking to make things better and improve things. And things have gotten better. Let's not say that they haven't. We've seen a lot of good regulation over the last few years. But what are some of the challenges you think you could tackle going forward?
I think energy costs are right at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And this year, I really could use some help supporting, strategies and policies that can contain or lower the cost. I had $1 billion of savings on my budget, and the real strong lobbying efforts from the Climate Act people outweighed. We got about half the loaf, but that we have Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Maryland, all responding to the fact that the changes that are coming our way from Washington on energy policy really should be forcing us to reset our goals so that we're not putting a heavy burden on our ratepayers, and that includes our small businesses, Dave.
Right. I mean, energy costs has certainly been a number one issue for a lot of our small businesses. And it's a balancing act. I mean, we're recording this end of June. It's going to come out in a few weeks, but we're about to have a major heat wave here, which I think will affect a lot of things going on, and that can be climate related. There's a lot to it, but certainly the climate change has affected these small businesses, especially along the coast and things of that nature. Where do you see energy costs and green energy and things of that nature helping small businesses? Because some of these green energy businesses are new; they're small businesses as well.
Well, they are, but that the whole net metering issue, it was a pilot program, and it's run its course. And so we're not trying to go backwards to impact any of the businesses or anybody that's benefiting from the net metering. But going forward, we need to reset that. And we need to reset the goals and move them back up, from 2030 up to 2050, 2040, we even will go there. But people should know that the solar projects that are involved in net metering are bringing kilowatt cost to the ratepayer of somewhere in the low 20s, 22 cents, 24 cents a kilowatt. We're paying on average around 10 cents a kilowatt when you blend both the winter and the spring rates.
Right.
We need to really change course. I was told today that the General Assembly in Massachusetts is actually looking at a reset in terms of their requirement to purchase into renewables. That's going to save their ratepayers money. We need to get past that. We need a real strong effort from our small businesses. I think that the energy is certainly there. I think that the other piece on the small businesses area is that we need to make sure that we're putting our resources to help small businesses. So, case in point. So it's the summer of soccer right now.
Yeah, it's been great.
And I had people in from FIFA in Boston asking us to send substantial amounts of money up to Boston to support their efforts, and I declined because we wanted to put the money here. Heck, I saw you at the fan zone the other night, and we wanted to put our resources here. That's just one example, and we put $500,000 or more. That is helping with these local efforts. I was in Central Falls on Saturday night, the Colombia-Portugal game.
Oh, yeah.
Filled with yellow and the Colombian. But there was people there coming to the city. Those people are going to do business. They probably went out for dinner after the game or dinner before the game. They were buying at the local watering holes type of a thing. So, and then I left there with my wife Susan, and we went to East Providence, who were running a block party there. And you had hundreds of people there in red, for the Portugal's team. But they also are benefiting from that local effort that we put in place. That would have been a shame to send our resources up to Boston and not have those activities here. So that's just one example. It's a point in time that we wanted to take advantage of it. And we have, but we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support the small businesses. Since I've been governor, anybody who has vehicles in their business is no longer paying a car tax.
Right.
That last $100 million had to come under my watch to finish that off. Anybody who has a tangible tax, virtually 85% of the small businesses are not paying a tangible tax any longer with the $50,000 exemption. That's a big issue. That was over a $30 million lift that had to be done to provide that relief to the small businesses. We immediately I put in that we had a litter tax that was in place for restaurants and eating establishments. I eliminated the litter tax, and then actually put a litter-free Rhode Island program in place that is funded by inside the budget rather than out of the pockets of our business owners. So those things are just small examples of the continual work that I'm doing to keep the economy going, keep people working. And we're not even talking about education yet, but I'd love to, weigh in on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
It should be high in center with people's concerns, especially if they have families.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, but before we move on to that, I think just highlighting the fan zone again and everything's going on, not just in Providence, but in the other cities as well. It's been a tremendous success. It's fantastic to see. Saw videos of the Cape Verde game the other night. It just thousands and thousands of people there, and that really does impact. As someone who, obviously food and drink, hospitality is my world. It's been so great to see. It really has been a huge boon to a lot of these businesses. And I'm sure I haven't followed up with the Central Falls folks yet, but I'm sure a lot of those little restaurants there in Central Falls had a great success because of these games. So
we bring a lot of people into a space. They celebrate that activity, but then they are going to other local restaurants. They're out. They're in a celebrating mode and they're spending their dollars, David. So I think that's important. And in terms of like continually trying to find ways to support, our businesses, it's really by setting a foundation. Like I said, no tangible tax for almost 85% of the small businesses in there, no car tax. So that's certainly helping businesses that have any level of fleets, so they're catering or whatever it is. They're not paying that $1,000, $2,000 any longer. We know that there's other challenges, and we try to address them one at a time. But those are important things. We put in a small business article in the budget every year, and we're running out of ideas. So people have ideas. I think the energy thing is really one that we need to rally behind.
Energy has certainly been an issue. I think we touched briefly upon the green economy there, but there's also the blue economy, which I think is very big, for us to talk about, because a lot of the small businesses that start here are involved in ocean projects, and there's a lot going on down in Quonset, a lot happening in Newport and South County. Where do you see small business growth there and the opportunities there?
There's tremendous opportunity there, David. I mean, like I said, we've added close to 38,000 private sector jobs since I have been governor. There was no life science hub before I was governor, right? There is one now. We've doubled up the amount of people that are actually working in the industry and increased their salaries by 50, 60% on average. So, and then in the maritime defense, that's another area that's a key area, with companies like Havoc in East Providence, or Saab in Bristol, or Batten in Bristol, or the issues that have to do with Andrew down in Quonset. These are all opportunities. All these businesses will need to work with small businesses in one way or the other. Yeah. And that's clearly, using a lot of big business in some ways to support small business. But these startups like Batten, they started with like 20 employees. They got I think over 70 employees right now. They're going to build it up. You have companies like Havoc in East Providence that started with a couple dozen employees, and they've doubled it or tripled it so far. So these are small businesses that are growing into big businesses, and that's helpful. But no life science till I showed up. No state health lab until I showed up. Brand new state health lab with 200,000 square feet. 120,000 is that for private industry, and there's incubators that are now existing in their small businesses that were providing lab space for incubation in that life science area. $100 million on organogenesis being invested up in Smithfield. Down in Quonset, 3,000 plus jobs have already been added since I've been governor. And we have a bond ask that's going to add about $100 million to the commerce strategies, with infrastructure down there to build another 1 million square feet and another 3,000, as many as 3,000 jobs. So the story that we have is really a compelling one. And there's multiple areas I could shift to, but that maritime defense is a key space that is creating more and more incomes, which are going to buy more and more pizzas at the local pizza shop. You put more people to work, they have expendable dollars.
Now you're just playing to me now, but yeah.
I'm playing to you, because if you don't have a paycheck, it's difficult to actually enjoy the great opportunities we have in hospitality is one of them. But small business, big deal. I want to shift a little bit to housing right now.
That's exactly the next thing I was going to bring up, because a lot of the things that affect the small businesses, people don't realize: housing and education. We need good employees. We need strong employees, well-trained employees, and those are the two areas where we really need to see some help to get those employees here in Rhode Island living and with the housing, and then educating them as well. So why don't you talk a little bit about those?
Let's talk a little housing, and then you can ask questions on that. And I know we got a few minutes left. I want to talk about education and in general the direction that we have in the state. But we have a housing plan. This housing plan is a comprehensive housing plan as a direct result of me establishing a housing office that never was established before till I come here as the governor. We have a secretary of housing that now we've empowered with the governance model. I was just up in Woonsocket announcing 172 home ownership strategies that we were putting in place. Look, we have a plan. There are people out there that says, oh, look at my plan. We've done almost 7,000 housing units since I've been governor. That's not even in the fair market area. Close to 7,000 in the pipeline are completed since I've been governor. This is a big deal. And also invested a serious amount of dollars. First thing I did, $250 million went into housing from the federal dollars. $120 million bond got passed in the last 2024. We have another $120 million bond on as well to create more and more production that makes sense. And home ownership is part of that production. So what we've done on housing, don't be fooled by somebody who might be out there trying to sell a story that they can't even, my opponent can't even make happen, because first of all, not acknowledging that there's a housing plan that's working, David, it's working. And there was no housing plan before. We're up 150% on permits since I've been governor, and at a level that has not been met since the 1980s in terms of production. So this is really important. Another $120 million bond going on the ballot this year. We're asking people for support for that, so we can keep the production going. As we, small businesses have employees, they want them to be able to live close to where they work, right? So that's being done. And then, any questions on the housing at all?
No, I think the plan is very thorough. I think anyone who wants to should take a look at it. We can link up to those things down below here in the show notes so that people could take a look. But,
I just reinforce, there's no housing plan till I show up. And part of my background as a former realtor, real estate, in my early days in business, I know the territory, and we've actually created a plan to do that. Just like we have for the state with the Rhode Island 2030 plan, it's all in there. We update this. This is probably the 5th draft since I've been governor, and I'm only early into my 6th year. And we're already ready to do one, so we want to update it all the time, so it's always fresh, and it always speaks to the issues, like you said, with the maritime defense is in here, the life science is in here, the health issues are in there, our education issues are front and center as well. And no one has done more on education than me.
So let's talk a little more about education, because I've got a daughter going to Rhode Island College in the fall. The Hope Scholarship is a great thing.
Yeah, the Hope Scholarship's a big deal. Look, Rhode Island College was on life support when I showed up. 700 dorm rooms empty. This year they had the largest freshman class in 15 years. The Hope Scholarship didn't exist until I showed up. Right, the path at Rhode Island College didn't exist. There was no cybersecurity school that's already been established, and we'll break ground on a $70 million plus building very shortly to establish a cybersecurity school on campus that is going to have 1,000 students in it, graduating at $250 a year into 6-figure jobs. So, and then the Hope Scholarship, as you said, look, a student, any student that's in anybody that lives on the state of Rhode Island that goes to Rhode Island College qualifies for this. It's not an income-driven issue. It's everyone. They're on a pace to graduate in 4 years. The last 2 years, their tuition, they won't be paying their tuition. The family's not going to have that tuition. I believe that since I've been governor, we have created the most affordable path anywhere in the country to a 2-year degree at CCRI, which we put the college promise in permanent. I signed that as well. So there's a path there. And then the K through 12, with the work that we're doing on Learn 365, the goals I've set to meet or exceed Massachusetts levels by 2030, we've already closed the gap with Massachusetts on our reading by 40%, close to 40%, 39%, and on our math by almost 30% at 29%. And so we keep this path going. This is only going to add to the economy, doing right by our kids, but it's going to add to the economy, David. So, and then the last thing on the education, look, as governor, I get to do certain things. We've opened up 21, we're opening in the process of opening 21 community learning centers throughout the state of Rhode Island. That's going to really focus on out of school learning, earnings for families and health, and we're going to play a big role in that. That could all go away if I'm not governor. And that's the truth. It could all go away. And yet we have this opportunity to work with 38 out of 39 municipal leaders who are going to help us achieve these goals. And I'm the only governor in the country that got this federal money approved. So over $82 million is being invested in these 21 learning centers around the state of Rhode Island. I'm sure that anybody listening to this knows that these communities, whether it's in Foster, Gloucester, Charlestown, down in Hopkinton, Richmond, or up here in East Providence, 3 in Providence, up in Woonsocket, Cumberland, Lincoln. It's all around the state.
You opened Coventry here right by me the last week. I haven't been yet, but I've seen heard some good things about it.
Where's that?
Coventry.
Coventry is like unbelievable. Because this whole notion that I've got in place is to help us achieve these goals, helping our young kids reach their potential, but also the whole idea there is to bring communities together around this one central theme, David, that in every home, every day, learning matters. Yeah. And if we're able to meet or exceed Massachusetts levels by 2030, it's doing right by our children, for one thing, and then giving them a path to an affordable certificate degree, 2-year degree, 4-year degree is all in line with that. But it's good for our economy. And this is what we're talking about here, small businesses.
Yeah.
If we meet this level, and I think we will, as long as we make this a whole community effort, we will increase families' incomes by billions of dollars. I have the data that shows that. That's one of the reasons I'm driving this effort, because it's going to increase our earnings powers for our families by billions of dollars. What is that going to do to help our small businesses in this state? Yeah. It's going to significantly impact that.
Absolutely true. Education is the path to better employees and to more entrepreneurs too, as well. And coupled with education, I know Simon here on your team, who we interviewed last year, has been putting a lot of great notes into the chat, and we haven't been able to get to all of them, Simon. But thank you. But he did just mention the child tax credit, which I think is a great asset for a lot of folks.
So let's talk about the affordability for all plan that I put in place and continue to work on, and which I've done before. Remember, any veteran that's out there with a pension, a veteran's pension, they no longer pay a tax on that pension.
Right.
When did that happen? During the first 2 years I was in office. How long were they trying to make that happen? Over 40 years. So we have made affordability and selectively found these spots, like you say, in that, the tangible tax, the car tax, the litter tax, those are just a sampling of what we've done in the past. But now, I put in the budget a child tax credit, the first child tax credit in the history of the state of Rhode Island. Other New England states have it. We didn't. Now we do, and it's going to help families considerably with their expenses. The other piece that I put in, when we already touched on it, was the energy piece. We're not done with that energy piece. I'm telling you right now, we need to at least follow our states, bordering states, that are going to have a competitive advantage on that energy cost if we don't respond as I'm asking the General Assembly to respond. The other piece was Social Security. So we're one of 8 states with Social Security tax, David. My proposal was to phase it out, but when we had that extra revenue as a direct result of the jobs and the income taxes and payroll taxes that are being paid because of the expansion of jobs and the incomes that they're correlated to. We are saying, I said, eliminate the Social Security tax. We lose more people to a Social Security tax than we will to a millionaire's tax. And the millionaire's tax is really prompted by policy coming out of Washington that is putting incredible pressure on our health care, on our SNAP programs, on our insurance, on the health exchange. But let's eliminate the Social Security tax. My commitment is the first line item in the budget next year will be to completely eliminate the Social Security tax. We helped 9,000 to 10,000 people that were paying the Social Security tax this year with what was passed, but we need to eliminate it. More people will leave the state of Rhode Island who are earning a decent retirement, not a wealthy retirement at $137,000 to whatever it is, but they will leave the state. And I have people coming up to me and saying, I'm retired now from one of our colleges. I'm going to leave the state because I can go to Massachusetts and not pay tax on my Social Security. What is that? What impact is that going to have, David, on on our small businesses.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, we have an aging population. That's just the reality of it. People are living longer. People, you know, I mean, that's where we're going. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense.
A huge amount of incomes that will leave the state if we don't eliminate the Social Security tax. And these are all challenges that I have with the General Assembly, and we need to have our, people who live in our communities, our small businesses included, say, follow the governor's lead, follow Dan's lead. Let's get rid of the Social Security tax. Let's address this energy issue. Let's make the Hope Scholarship, which they've extended it now, but at some point, let's make that permanent. So
yeah.
Every family in the state of Rhode Island, regardless of the income, it could be high income, low income, middle income, they all are eligible for this Hope Scholarship. And we are investing in Rhode Island College. There'll be another bond question on to improve their library there. There'll be a bond question to improve an entrepreneur center at CCRI in the Aurora campus. And there'll be an improvement at URI in terms of how to continue the improvements down there. We just came from the Bay campus. This is another small business thing because you've got to educate people in order to provide the career paths.
Right.
When I toured the Bay campus right after I was governor, and they hadn't invested any dollars in the physical plant there for over 50 years or more, I said, we'll take care of that. And I did. And just last week, we cut a ribbon on a $125 million robotics center right on the Bay campus, which puts Rhode Island URI in a leading place on oceanography anywhere in the country. Those are the investments we're making in our universities as part of the idea of the K through 12. By the way, $4 billion of schools have been under construction or completed for the K through 12 since I've been governor in virtually every community in the state. So when we start talking about going forward, we have a housing plan. We've got a 2030 plan that outlines all these things that I just talked about and a lot more of things that we have accomplished since I've been governor. And I want to be around in 2030 when we can see the future of our labor, which we're already seeing, David, which is going to be a big deal to our economy. And I know how difficult it was during the banking crisis to operate my small business in Woonsocket with Marquette Credit Union having some $500 million tied up. And at that time, that was a big number. And our revenue dropped by 50% in less than 9 months. I know what small businesses are going through when the pandemic hit. And to have a good economy, to not have bank failures, not have a real estate collapse, right? Not have a situation where economies are going down, that's when our small businesses are hurt worse. So we need to maintain this place that we are in right now and keep building off that so that we're improving the economy and not allowing the unemployment to skyrocket like it has in the past, not allowing our universities to be stressed in terms of delivering the path to a career path to a good paying job. And finally, I can end this in 15 seconds and then ask me whatever you want. But look, we're going to do everything we can to help our kids do well. We're going to make sure that we're doing everything we can to raise incomes in households throughout the state of Rhode Island. We're going to make sure that we're healthy and in providing the health care to people who need the help. There's a reason why I'm getting support from the nurses in the next campaign. We played a leading role in saving 2 hospitals that were on the brink of bankruptcy at Fatima and also Roger Reeves. So we played a leading role in doing and saving those hospitals. And finally, the last thing we're doing that no one ever thought of, I don't know why, we're building things, David.
Yeah.
We're building things at such a rapid rate, whether it's our infrastructure on our roads. I just went up 146. They're completing that road right now. I've gone, the Washington Bridge, by the way, we're 2 years ahead of Maryland and several months ahead of the contract that we've signed to complete that bridge. Regardless of what we're investing in, whether it's on the college campuses, private industry like Organogenesis, down in down in Quonset, or a soccer stadium that we built in Pawtucket, or a building, an Amazon building, 3 million square feet at prevailing wage, first prevailing wage job in the country on an Amazon project. That's what I'm told. And then in Pawtucket, I took a lot of grief on being the deciding vote for that soccer stadium. They've had over 250,000 visits to that stadium in the last year. And then just this past week, we announced that we're going to build that bridge I'm talking about over the water, and it's going to connect in infrastructure, so beautiful walkways around that plane, and it's going to connect into 400 or 500 housing units. So what we're doing, and every time you put somebody to work building something, you are sending them home with a paycheck, and that paycheck helps our small businesses.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely true. No, we all know this. All of us have got those supplementary incomes and bonuses during the pandemic. Those dollars went back into our small businesses and into our local economy. People weren't spending those, weren't investing it in savings and things of that nature. While maybe people need to, but they were spending it in small businesses, and that's key. And I think Pawtucket's a great example of more small businesses will be coming along with that new construction too as well. So, thank you very much. This has been a great conversation. I think you did a great summary wrap up there. I think we just want to point out to everyone out there that the plans and things that the governor talked about, we will link up down below in our show notes. The key date is September 9th. Make sure you vote on Wednesday, September 9th in the primary. Anything else you want to add, Governor, before we go?
No, look, I'm a kid that grew up in a boys club. I've rubbed elbows with every possible, neighbor, every possible income, every possible, race, religion. I'm bringing that to this office. And there's never been a governor that sat in this office that has had the experience that I've had, whether it's in small business, nonprofits, which I was a president of the club. My dad started 25 years after it was actually founded, or into the areas that have to do with government. And I'm carrying that forward. So I'm thankful to everyone that has been helping, and would appreciate that consideration when the vote is cast. Let's get out there and exercise our rights for the people that I serve.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time today, Governor. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, David.
That was Governor Dan McKee, ladies and gentlemen. Great conversation. Hope you had a chance to listen to all of that. He threw a lot out there, and it was certainly a lot of important information. So play it back again if you didn't catch it all. And in the meantime, we always love a like, a subscribe, and all of that down there in the YouTube or podcast world. We appreciate all those likes and subscribes and comments. Until next time, thank you and take care.